How's it going, everybody? Fernando, aka the Lone Star Halo, joined by Susie of Bourbon and Baseball. We're going to talk a little bit of Angels. We're going to talk a little bit of Astros. All that coming up.
Hey, you are now listening or watching the Halos in the Infield podcast, sponsored in part by Noble L Works over on 1621 South Sinclair, where you can get discounts by just mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield, drink discounts on us, baby. And also by 714 Tickets, 714 Tickets. The price you see is the price you get, and you also get 10% additionally off in the Apply Now code once you order your tickets just by mentioning HITI, Halos in the Infield. Now enjoy the show.
Okay, first things first. So anybody who listens to that ad who's an Angels fan knows what it is. Because, I don't know if you're aware who Roger Lodge is. The host of Blind Date. He was on Full House. He fired Uncle Jesse from Jesse and the Rippers. Anyway, so he has that voice where he's like, 714 Tickets. So that's what we're mocking.
Gotcha. Okay.
What does that sound like to you? Is it just like, like a cat scratching kind of thing? It's just like background noise? Or
just like a weird sing-song voice. I don't know. Like, I just thought they was, like it's a bit, trying to be catchy.
Okay.
But no, that makes so much more sense now with the post game that I watched of you guys last night. That all of this makes much more sense now. Thank you.
Yeah. Roger Lodge is kind of like he's the front man of Angels baseball. The Angels are very like state-run media.
Gotcha. Okay.
They dot their I's, they cross their T's. You have to, respond to the great Artie Moreno, and he does that. He's a yes man. So because of that, we mock him a lot because he's everything wrong with the Angels. And we'll get to everything wrong with the Angels because there's a laundry list. And I really want to hear an outsider's perspective on what you think's wrong with the Angels. And I'm hoping you're very critical. But before that, let's talk a little bit about your background. For anyone who might not know who you are, you have been on the show before, and she has a great podcast. Make sure to check it out. She's going to have many opportunities to plug it, and we hope she does. But Susie, give our audience the background and the gist of you.
Well, first off, I appreciate the invite the second time around. Apparently, you guys liked me enough to bring me back a second time. So, thanks for that. So, hi, guys. My name is Susie, obviously, Bourbon and Baseball. And I became a baseball fan in 2018 after, the Astros won the World Series in 2017. And everyone's like, oh, bandwagon, blah, blah, blah. No, don't get it twisted, people. I became a fan of literally the sport of baseball in 2018. And I legitimately did not want to watch baseball. Game 5 of the 2017 World Series, my husband had to wake me up on the couch, like from a dead sleep. And I was very, very angry with him. And he's yelling at me, Alex Bregman wants it off in the tank. And I'm all, sir, you made words. And individually, I understand what those words mean. But then you strung them together in a sentence. And I have no idea what you're talking about. And he's like, and he's, yelling. And I'm all, I cannot believe that you woke me up to talk to me about baseball. Just stop it. And so the famous line that I like to say is I would have rather watched flies fuck than watch baseball. And my husband would be so mad because he would have to like explain things to me. I'm all, I don't understand why do you got to do the things with the batting gloves and then the helmets and why does it take 43 minutes in between each pitch? And he's like, it's part of the game. You got to learn the game. I'm all,
hey, now it takes 20 seconds.
This is true. And so I again, became a baseball fan in 2018. So started learning the Astros, I really started learning baseball in and of itself, like other teams, other players. That 2019 World Series came around, and I had no idea who anybody was on the Nationals except for Max Scherzer. I had no idea who Steven Strasburg was, and it literally only clicked in like 2022 when like the whole like Steven Strasburg narrative came around. I was like, wait a minute, Steven Strasburg, Nationals. Wait, I saw him pitch. Fair did not register in my head. And of course Juan Soto, because who could forget Juan Soto? Anyways.
Hey, I love Juan Soto. I know he's an arch rival now because we all hate the Yankees, but I do love the kid. He's a good player. He really is.
That's why he's such a good player, but he's so cocky about how good he is, and it just drives me insane. Like
you can be cocky if you're good, Susie. I
You
can live
can.
with that.
I know, but I just want to punch him in his throat every single time. And
That's fair.
I think it really like manifested itself in that 2019 World Series when,
That's fair.
like Zach Greinke, when he's like shuffling at Zach Greinke, and I hope to God Zach Greinke just hits the living piss out of you. Just 95-mile-an-hour fastball, and at that point, Zach Greinke was not throwing that, but I wanted him to just get all of the things and just, anyways. But yeah,
it's so crazy to relive that moment. You know, the Soto shuffle of 2019. I mean, because the kid was what, 19 at the time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's crazy. I mean, what were we all doing at 19? We certainly weren't hitting 95-mile-an-hour fastball piss missile home runs. You know what I mean? No. It's crazy.
No, and that just it's so aggravating because we heard how young he was. Like every other at bat, even when he wasn't on the screen. And well, can you just shut up? Can you just shut the fuck up about it?
We get it.
Please, thank you. I got it. He's a good player. He's only 19. I understand. And I think maybe that's why it kind of got ingrained in my head about how much I dislike him. But now watching him on the Yankees, I have never seen a player more belonging to a club that they weren't like raised in, quote unquote, you know. Yeah. I hate it. I hate it so much. But I'm like, but if Steinbrenners do not pay Juan Soto, they are the most idiotic franchise in the entire world. The most.
Juan Soto is definitely that guy who, if you would have given me 30 players like 5 years ago, and you were like, which one of these guys are going to be Yankees? Juan Soto is one of them. You know, like the generation before that, you look at Alex Rodriguez, you're like, that guy's a Yankee. You know what I mean? It's same kind of thing.
Yeah, and I hate that. I legitimately hate that. The part of me that wants chaos wants the Mets to just outbid the Steinbrenners and just create all of the chaos to see Juan Soto in a Met jersey. But Juan Soto on the Mets just does not. It feels like we're in the wrong timeline, you know? Like it doesn't work.
Yeah, that's fair. I did want him to stay with the Padres just because I feel like that's a place where I could have cheered for him. Like Absolutely. I told you, I do have a weak spot for the Padres growing up in San Diego, living there for 20 years. But I can't cheer for him as a Yankee. Like the guy, hate the team, can never cheer for the Yankees in any capacity.
See, and I liked Juan Soto on the Padres. Mm-hmm. That Juan Soto I could cheer for when he would do the good things. I'm like, yes, absolutely. But
he did struggle to do some good things there, though.
Yes.
When he was in San Diego, he was not Juan Soto for the bulk of his time there.
Yeah, and then I'm like, all right, fine. But then he, gets over and gets with the Yankees and puts on different pinstripes, and I'm all, Juan Soto, whatever.
So one thing I want to say, and I know this is something that doesn't have to be said, but I commend you for starting a podcast. Now, I'm not going to pretend like this is an age where it's hard to start a podcast, right? Everyone can start one. Anyone can do one. But what I will say is women belong in sports. I have been adamant about that from the beginning that we've had our show. We've done whatever we can to have women on our network, give them exposure, because women belong in baseball, women belong in sports. And the fact of the matter is, if you have the goods, you should have the ability to put that on display. It's just, there's so many women who we've asked to come on our show who know what they're talking about. They're very knowledgeable, but they're scared, because I almost feel like women are viewed completely different in the sports world. You not only have to know what you're talking about, but you have to almost be able to mansplain a mansplainer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because being knowledgeable isn't good enough anymore. It's, oh, she's a woman, she read that. So I give you a lot of credit for having your own podcast. It's absolutely awesome of you. And I hope that the world continues to accept women in sports, because it's the future. It's going to continue to come. And it's so sad we live in a world where there's still misogyny and people still thinking like, oh, she doesn't know what she's talking about.
Right. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that. Thank you. Again, because I started my baseball loving journey in 2018, I really didn't get into podcasts until probably 2021. And when I did start getting into podcasts and listening to the various baseball content out there, not gonna lie, it was a lot of old white guys talking at me, and not to not to be judgmental or anything, but I have my own personal old white guy, like i.e. my husband, that that wants to talk to me all the time, and I didn't want to listen to more old white guys. And so I really tried to find women talking about baseball, and unfortunately there was really only like two that I could find, and the one just talked about how hot the baseball players are. While I will not dispute that, that was not the content that I was looking for. And then the only other one that I found that actually talked about baseball in and of itself was called No Crying in Baseball, and they were really the kind of like jumping off point for me. And they were hysterical, and they were a little bit older, and the shtick, I guess, of them is Patty and Potty Mouth. So the fact that they cussed as well, and I was like, these are my people. I can relate. I can relate. And unfortunately, a lot of people in the sports world, if you are a woman in the sports world, you're very pretty. Yeah, you're very pretty. Yeah, and you're nice to look at, right? And I was like, that's not the content that I'm trying to go for. And so I would talk to my husband about the Astros and baseball, and he's like, "I love you, but can we talk about anything else?" I'm all, "This is all I got." And he goes, "Why don't you start a podcast? Start a podcast." He goes, "Because I'm sure there are probably other women out there in baseball that would like to know about the things that you're learning about." And I'm all, "Why? Why would I start a podcast? That's the dumbest idea you've ever had in your entire life." And he goes, "Or it's not, and you could start a podcast, and women could listen to you, and you could help other women, And I'm all right, I'm not gonna give you credit for this idea, but it's a good idea. Fine. So
Typical wife.
Yeah.
Typical wife.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. 100%. So, I started essentially because I did not find the kind of content that I wanted, and I wanted to create that kind of content. And so, along with the original host of Bourbon and Baseball, her name was Shelby, and she was a D1 softball player. So she knew the Astros, she knew baseball, she knew the sport. And so any athletic questions, because I am a bump on a log, any athletic questions, I could ask her and she could help me out. And so we started a fun banter back and forth. And in the journey that we've been on for the last 2-ish years or year and a half, it's just gotten better. And the kind of content that I wanted to create for ladies, like women who wanted to learn about baseball, but also I didn't want to pigeonhole myself into just being for the ladies, and hopefully guys wouldn't mind listening to a woman talk about baseball. And so I think we've kind of created that community. I haven't run into too many trolls on social media. Obviously, it's social media, so I am going to.
Of course.
But for the most part, it's been welcoming. In like Twitter Spaces and whatnot, guys would be like, "I don't know why you're talking," and then then I would start talking about BABIP and ex woba, and they're all, what's ex woba? I'm all, I can't talk to you if you don't know what ex woba is. Why am I? This is not a conversation that we can have if you don't understand what that is.
Yeah.
So
it's funny. Look, see, anyone who's like, a woman can't talk about baseball. Look, her story is very similar to ours, right? There was a great deal of Angels podcasts. We actually kind of joined when a couple of them started to quote unquote die out. But there wasn't any Angels fans who were calling it how they see it, right? There was a lot of fluff. It was a lot of fluff pieces. And we just wanted to provide the audience with unfiltered access to the team. And the organization has made it very clear that they hate that, and that's why we're not directly involved with the organization. We've made multiple attempts. But we just wanted to be the outlet for people, which is why we do the post-game show.
Right.
It's nightly, because nightly your opinion on the team changes. You hate your team, you love your team, depends on what happens the night before. And that's how all fans feel. And there's nothing wrong with that. So we wanted to be that outlet for people, and we've built a community off of that.
Yeah.
And, after that, the community sprouts and you start to build more branches. And that's when it becomes bigger and bigger. And that's when it's really rewarding. Do you feel that the reward now that you've had a podcast for a couple of years?
Yeah, definitely. I've met some great people and that have become like friends in the podcasting world. And then I've met some fans actually in public that that don't interact with me normally on social media and stuff. And I'm the most awkward human being when if I'm not talking about baseball. I don't know how to interact. Apparently, I don't know how to small talk. And so when I meet fans, they're like, "Oh my gosh, we love the show." And I'm all, "Oh." And then my brain shuts down because it doesn't know how to accept compliments because I was raised with an Asian mom. So it's all we don't what's that? That's not. And so then I turn into Ricky Bobby and I don't know what to do with my hands and then I'm all cool. Love that. I'm so sorry that I've uh, ruined this experience for us.
Yeah.
And but it's a lot of fun because, once I get past the awkwardness and can talk about the fandom and the team and baseball in and of itself, and like how they found the show, that's really kind of what's really fun for me. So
Yeah, no, so we've had some like fans on the show. We've met fans doing like tailgates and softball tournaments. And nothing's cooler than when like someone comes up to you and they're like, I'm a big fan. I listen to you all the time. Because you see numbers on the screen when you're looking at your numbers, you're looking at your views, but you don't actually put people behind that. You know
right.
what I mean? And I don't know about you if you've had this moment yet, but like nothing's weirder than like when you kind of use like 5 or 10 minutes to vent on your podcast just about life or whatever.
Right.
And then like someone asks you about that and you're like, can we like leave that in the past? I don't really want to talk about my, divorce anymore.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're concerned. You know what I mean? It's just
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
vent for a couple minutes, just not thinking anything of it.
Well, and see, and I'm sure that your podcast is way bigger than mine and has a much larger reach and footprint. But I don't do all of the numbers that I would like to do. But so when people come up to me and say, "Oh yeah, and they will mention stuff on the show, I'm all, you watch the show. I'm always surprised that people like watch the show.
Yeah.
And so, but it's even more funny when it's actual local people because I don't live in Houston proper. I live in Houston-ish. And so when people down here were in the city that I live in actually come up and say, "Oh yeah, I heard," and I'm all, you did? Then I'm embarrassed and I'm like, "Oh shit." Like, wait, what did I say? And that's kind of always what throws me off when it's like local people in the small town that I live in. Um, but it's always funny and I'm like, "Oh, I did say that. Yeah, yeah, that's right. Oh crap." But yeah, it's always a little funny slash unnerving when people like mention stuff on the podcast
Yeah.
that has nothing to do with sports that are like, "Oh yeah, no, Susie, I do have that same," and I was like, "Yeah, okay." So, but yeah, I'm glad that other people have that feeling too.
Yeah. And your audience is always the first in line to call you out if you have a bad take or if you say something wrong. And that's fine, right? That's your words are forever on the internet.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
so I don't know if you ever thought much about this. So let's just say Susie was in charge of creating an Astros Mount Rushmore.
Ooh, okay.
Who would you put on your Mount Rushmore of Astros baseball?
Oh, okay. So like the fan that has been a fan of baseball and Astros forever and ever and ever are gonna be real mad at me. They're gonna be real mad at me because that's not like again before baseball, Susie. So
Yeah, but I'm sure you've done some digging into the
yes, I
team's
have,
history.
but not enough though to like really like vet all of them because really there's like the Astros in like the rainbow jerseys like the tequila sun.
Yeah.
I always don't know where to point
That's fair.
in the jersey over there. There we
I
go.
know what
That
you
one,
mean.
that jersey. Um, so that jersey had some great players like Jose Cruz and um oh Jimmy Wynn. There we go. Nolan Ryan, who I'm very upset actually finished his career with the Rangers.
Well,
Um,
don't worry. We feel the same way in Anaheim.
I'm sure you do.
He got
Like,
4 no hitters with the Angels. Just saying.
yeah. Um, So I would probably and then you've got, the Bagwell Biggio era and then
Yeah.
this era now.
I was
So,
assuming we were going to hear at least either Biggio or Bagwell. I just
well,
assumed one of them would be penciled in.
so the Biggio Bagwell era is the era that my husband grew up watching, and like that was the Berkman, the Killer Bees, that whole thing.
Yep.
Again, I have no quote unquote affinity, towards them.
That's fair.
Quite honestly, I have Bagwell irks me because he's in the ear of Jim Crane saying sign these players, and I'm like, shut why do I need a 37-year-old first baseman? Shut up, Bagwell. So it can't be Bagwell right now, and people are going to be mad. I know, I'm sorry. So it's gonna have to be our short king Altuve.
Yeah, I figured
So
he'd be on there. Yep.
it's Altuve for sure. I'd probably have to go like Nolan Ryan, because Nolan Ryan.
That's fair.
I would have to probably go. I would probably have to go with the other Jose Cruz, the other Jose.
Okay, that's 3.
That's 3. Mm. Ay. My husband's gonna kill me if I don't put one of those ones on there. I don't want to put Bagwell or Biggio on there.
There's no bad answer.
Let's go. Oh crap. I'm gonna have to show my bias to
Okay.
my now Astros, and I'm gonna have to put Verlander on there.
Okay.
So
yeah,
Verlander, Altuve, Jose Cruz, and Nolan Ryan.
Okay. I mean, hey, Verlander is one of the best pitchers in your franchise's history, for sure. I mean, he's been very, very good for Houston for years. It wasn't just getting a lucky thing, right? I mean, the guy came back from injury and was even good. So
absolutely, and it makes me giggle every time I encounter a Tigers fan that's like, "Oh, he's gonna go in the hall with the Tigers hat." I'm all, are you sure about that?
yeah.
And I got into this discussion with my husband. He's like, look up what he did with the Tigers. You may be surprised. And I'm all, no, but
but he didn't win a ring with the Tigers.
Yeah, and so I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure he's gonna go in with an Astros hat. So
being unbiased, I will say I agree with you. I think he's going to go in as an Astro. There's certainly an argument to be made that he can go in as a Tiger.
Definitely
an argument, but he's going to go in as an Astro. Watch him punk everyone going as a Met.
Oh my God.
He's going to be like, what? As a Met?
Absolutely,
barely did anything.
Absolutely not. No.
So you brought up the short king, Jose Altuve, and I want you to be unbiased on this because there's going to be a time for you to unload next on the Angels. So Jose Altuve is going to be a Hall of Famer, but with the scandals that happened with him and the organization, will he be a first ballot Hall of Famer because of that?
I don't think he will. I think he should be.
Yeah,
but I don't think he will. I think the writers will definitely hold the scandal against him, even though it's been shown that he did not use the system. He was like one of the 4 that did not use it. But the fact that he has never come out and defended himself when people have asked him about it. He's always said, I was part of the team. If you're going to slander the Astros, like you're going to slander me. Like it's never been him. It's always been, I'm part of the organization. And, and everyone's like, oh, well, why didn't he stop it then? I'm like, why? Are you kidding me right now?
And a lot of his teammates also came out and defended Altuve, right? You had Carlos Correa be like, hey, don't boo that guy. It wasn't him. So, but he never defended himself.
Yeah. And that's not him as a person. That's not his personality. That's not, he is that team player. And
he doesn't have the main character energy, but he is the main character, if you will. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Because there's some guys who are quiet leaders, and respectfully, I think Altuve is a quiet leader. Leads by example type of thing.
Yep, for sure. And so it always it always hurts me just a little bit when I see and hear all of the slander that Altuve, like, takes. Well, you don't even know. Like, you guys don't even you can't even fathom how good of a person and how good of a teammate he is, and if you were so lucky to have Jose Altuve on your team, like, you could only be so lucky to, like, know that energy and his character and how he is, and it hurts so much. Like, I get mad at people. Like, my best friend and I went to a Cubs game, in at Wrigley Field, and it was my first time being, like, somewhere else besides, like, in Texas,
Okay.
and we were in a box, and Altuve comes up to bat, and the people in the box start booing, and my best friend's like, "I just wanna let you know, I have bail money, so you gotta come back at some point, like, you gotta take care of that point, but I have bail money in case you wanna," and I was like, so I'm in the box saying loudly, I'm like, "Okay, so all of you are idiots? You're just really gonna believe John Boy? You're showing how stupid you are right now? Is that what I'm to understand?" And this guy turns around and just kinda looks at me, and I go, "Just keep going, that's fine, just that you're just showing me how stupid you are, that's cool. Love that for you." Mhm. And he's just looking at me, and then his wife, like, puts her hand on him, and then my best friend's like I said, I got the bail money, so just the entire game, like, nobody else from that box booed because they knew I was gonna throw hands for my short king. Because, like, you wanna boo Bregman, fine, whatever, like, but you literally cannot boo Altuve. You just can't do it. Can't do it.
Yeah, I think Altuve was just like wrong place, wrong time kind of thing. You know what I mean? Maybe if he wasn't directly involved, he's associated. So,
Yep.
um, Wrigley Field. I didn't know you went there. I told you off air. I've been to 19 Major League Baseball stadiums. I'm gonna go to Houston this year, so it's gonna be 20. What did you think about Wrigley? It's a top 5 stadium for me. I love it.
I've not been to, a lot of stadiums. I've
It's
been
okay. It's okay.
obviously here, Minute Maid. I've been to Mimic Maid Park, that's what I like to call Arlington's.
Hey, our
And
stadium here looks like a Lowe's. That's the best
yeah,
way I describe it to people.
yeah. And I went to, I've been to the Twins Target Fields
Okay.
way back when I did not like baseball.
Okay.
So those are
Never
the
been there.
only 3 that I have any sort of anything, and watching baseball on TV, I wasn't aware how small Wrigley is. Like, I did not I had no clue that it was like, you're right on top of the field, and it makes sense 'cause it's, older stadium and all that, but I it was gorgeous and absolutely, like, one of the most fun experiences I've ever had, and now I understand, the ivy and the wall, but right when I started watching baseball, we were watching a Cubs game, and one of the outfielders did not crash into the wall, which I am accustomed to watching. I'm like,
Mhm.
why didn't he make that catch? And my husband just started laughing. He goes, Do you know what's back there?" And I'm like, "It's a wall." And he goes, "It's not a padded wall though. It's a brick
Brick.
wall." And I go, What do you mean it's a brick wall?" And he goes, "That's what that is." And I go, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard." And he goes, "When was this stadium built?" I'm all, "Oh, it's the olden days. Got it. All right. Like, it's not been updated." He goes,
Yeah.
"No, it's not been updated." I was like, "Oh, okay."
So there's a documentary that's on YouTube. I don't know if you've seen it. It's like called Rebuilding Wrigley, and
Oh, no.
it took me like a year to get Todd to watch it, and it's really good. I don't know if you're the kind of person who like puts something in the background while you do podcast work,
Uh-huh.
cooking, cleaning, whatever. I mean, that's what I do. I always have something on in the background if I'm
Right.
doing chores. So, yeah, it's a good hour-long documentary. Put in the background. It talks about them rebuilding Wrigley while it was still standing up,
Oh,
and it talks
fun.
about them like drilling down to like the bedrock and how like the foundation of the stadium had like completely corroded. The stadium was
Ooh,
almost rebuilt in like I think from 2016 to 2019, completely
really?
rebuilt while it was still standing.
Oh, wow. Yeah, no, I had no idea. That's so cool.
It's a really cool documentary. I definitely recommend checking it out.
But yeah, no, yeah, like, you are right on top of the field. I
Yep.
mean, it is not it was a whole complete mind shift. Now when I watch Cubs games, I've been there, and it does not look like that in the thing. No, it's you are like right on top of the field. And then what's really cool is there are seats on the buildings across the street from Wrigley
Yep. Mhm.
that it's like a whole other experience. All of like the food and like drinks and stuff are included in your ticket, but it's not sold through the stadium. It's sold through like the actual building itself. And I'm all, that's the coolest thing
I think the
ever.
Cubs get like a percentage of it or
Yeah.
whatever. It's
Well, apparently like the owner of the Cubs bought those buildings
huh.
for like pennies on the dollar to do that, but it's like funneled a different way or something like that, if I remember correctly from the gentleman who was explaining it to me. But yeah, but then like they have like the outfield seats
Yep. The
that you have
bleachers.
to, yeah, like apparently you have to have an outfield like a bleachers ticket. Like
Yes.
you can't animal. Why? Like why can't I just like walk over there? They're like, yeah, that's not how it works. I'm all,
Yeah, I've been at Wrigley 3 times, and every time I've sat, like I sat behind home plate twice, and then one of
oof.
the times on the third base side. Never sat in the bleachers. I
Yeah,
want to.
I was told that I wouldn't make it in the bleachers. And I go, what do you mean I wouldn't make it in the bleachers? And they're like, it's a rough crowd out there, Mom. I'm small, but I could get rough. And they're like, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but not with the company that you have. It's like you need a bigger person with you, Susie. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. I see what you're saying, but okay, fine, whatever. But yeah, it was such a cool experience, and I will definitely go back at some point and watch another game there.
yeah. Definitely recommend it to anyone who hasn't had the opportunity to go. You have to. You got to appreciate it for what it is. I mean, it's a very photogenic stadium, surprisingly.
Yes,
There's not much to do. If you don't like baseball and you're not going to appreciate it, you're going to have a bad time.
absolutely,
But if you can
absolutely.
just go there and take in, like, all the history that stadium's seen, it's the only stadium still standing, Major League Baseball stadium, that Jackie Robinson's played in. There's all of that kind of stuff. You can appreciate it for what it is.
Yep,
So
for sure.
here's your opportunity to dunk on the Angels. Okay. I want you to be honest and I want you to be open. When was the last time you were truly worried about playing the Angels? Was it ever during your time as a baseball fan?
No, nope, never.
Okay. Fair enough.
uh, like I said, it was I started watching baseball in 2018, and as long as I've watched baseball, um, Mike Trout and Shohei Ohtani were on the Angels, and it was always the Mike Trout, Shohei Ohtani. What can they do? Not like what can the Angels do against us? It's like don't let Trout and Ohtani hurt you. And it was always a little sad seeing the organization. I'm like, bro, what are y'all doing? Like, why? And I mean, you tried, like you signed Anthony Rendon to that huge contract after, winning the World Series with the Nats, and like you expected big things. And then unfortunately, Anthony Rendon was like, just kidding. I'm going to be hurt forever and ever and ever. Uh, but the fact that nothing ever could just really work and ever flow correctly. I don't know. And I was never like, it's the Angels. So it's not like we have like bad feelings towards Angels. It's just you're there and it's one of the teams. And but I did always feel bad because there was always some sort of injury to I felt like a major key player at some point in time. I'm all, how does this keep happening to y'all? Like, I don't understand. But I mean, it was never really like, I guess, like soft tissue injuries or something that I guess could be prevented.
Yeah, it
It
was
was
always
always,
like something major.
yeah, it was always,
This guy, Shohei Ohtani, is getting Tommy John surgery. It's like, what,
yeah.
again?
I'm like, oh, all right. Like, and when you guys had like Gio Urshela that was like playing out of his mind for you,
Yep.
and then he like broke his pelvis or something. I'm all,
Yep.
he did what? How?
Yeah,
Why?
Super Angels injury. You had Trout last year break his, what, a hymen bone or whatever it
Yeah.
was, like swinging, and it's like,
Mhm.
okay, oh, it's a golf injury. Okay,
Yeah.
great. That's the
And
kind of shit that happens here in Anaheim.
yeah, well, and I'm always like, I don't understand. Like, what did y'all like? What happened? But it's one of those where y- that okay, so like all of that stuff happens, but then I'm all, but from your farm system, like you're just rushing people up. I'm like, all right, I guess that could kind of work. I mean, it's kind of worked out for Nolan Shanuel. maybe kind of a little bit. But besides that, Amal, I don't understand what's happening. Like Angels still kind of lose, but yet your farm system doesn't ever really get better. And I'm all, is that a development problem? Is that like not putting the people around it? Like
Yeah.
how do you fix that?
I think it's a front office problem. And, this was kind of what I was going to allude to when I asked you. After that, I was going to ask, like, what's your outside perspective on what's wrong with the Angels? I'll give you my take, and you can kind of let me know what you think.
Okay.
I mean, it really stems from the front office, and it stems from ownership, right?
Yeah.
Artie Moreno bought the team in like 2003, and the Angels were one of the better teams in baseball till about 2009, continuously making the playoffs. They were projected in 2009 to at least make it to the World Series. They were a World Series favorite. And at that point, they were perennial winners. But the problem was they were still kind of riding the coattail of Disney's success. Disney owned the Angels from 98 to 2002.
Oh, okay.
The Angels won the World Series in 2002. Disney saw the opportunity, and they were buying ESPN, so they sold the team. Because obviously, conflict of interest, right? You can't own ESPN if you're owning, the Ducks and you're owning the Angels. So they got rid of the Angels. And at that time, the Angels weren't very profitable, right? That was before these mega contracts happened. So Artie Moreno was still kind of riding those, coattails of success. Sorry.
You're fine.
Cough attack.
I see. It gets you fired up, talking about Artie Moreno, and you're like, listen, this is how passionate I am about this.
Yeah, I've been sick for a couple days, so the fun of that,
right?
But yeah. So as those days started to fade away, those pieces that Disney set in place in the farm system, B, the scouting department started to get dwindle down. Those guys were coming up. They were graduating from prospect status. They were leaving, getting traded, whatever. The Angels never drafted properly, and they kept signing these giant free agent contracts, right? In 2012, you look at guys like C.J. Wilson, Albert Pujols, the year after were Josh Hamilton. And every time they made these giant signings, they were losing out on their first-round draft pick. Because, if you signed somebody who got extended a qualifying offer back then, you used to lose a first-round pick. I think now it's a second and third-round pick. And so the Angels weren't having the ability to hit on first-round picks. And you being an Astros fan, you understand how important those first-round picks are. The Astros didn't miss on their first-round picks for years. So I think it was a perfect storm of things going against them. They were making these giant signings, and those guys were coming and not fully producing, right? I don't think Albert Pujols was as bad as a lot of Angels fans make him out to be.
Yeah, but then he goes on to the Cardinals and has the end of the career that he has, and you're just all, why? What changed?
Yeah, I don't know. Something tells me that there might have been something fishy there. I don't know. I mean, come on. You have to admit, is it not a little weird? This guy all of a sudden just hitting bomb after bomb after bomb.
Whatever do you mean? I don't.
What? Did his drug test keep getting lost in the mail?
MLB does not have two different balls. What are you talking about?
Yeah, juicing the baseballs. Yeah, that's fair. So there was obviously something going on there, and I mean, whatever. If they had an opportunity to bury Alex Rodriguez as one of his records, they took advantage of it, right? Because we know Major League Baseball hates Alex Rodriguez. So, and Barry Bonds, for that matter of fact, right? And Roger Clemens. I think both those guys should be Hall of Famers, but I digress. So that's kind of my, as condensed as I can. It really just stems from ownership investing poorly in the wrong pieces. You already alluded to Anthony Rendon. That's another guy you can throw in there. And at the end of the day, if you're trying to be a big market team like the Angels have been for a while, you're going to make those bad signings. It comes into territory, right?
Yep.
But the biggest mistake was while they were making those signings, they stopped investing in the minor leagues. And we've had 10 years of this farm system being like top 5 worst in Major League Baseball. So who are you going to take out? You drafted Nolan Schanuel, and like you said, it was like, hey, you're in, kid. Zach Neto, you're in, kid. There was no developmental period. And who knows? Nolan Schanuel's okay right now. I think he's going to be a serviceable major leaguer, but I think he could have been a great major leaguer if he would have had 2 or 3 years to develop.
Yeah. I have questions about Nolan Schanuel's batting
Sure.
stance.
Uh-huh.
What the fuck is that?
I think he needs to poop. He has a weird, like,
I don't
he spreads his
understand.
legs out there. I don't even know. It's like at 6 o'clock and like 3 o'clock.
Yeah. Well, but like, I don't understand how he sees over his own arm. Like,
Well,
it's so high up, but then like right before the pitch is thrown, then he gets. And I was like, is it a timing mechanism? And obviously, I've never actually played baseball. Hand up. So the athletic side of this, I don't get it, And so it kind of reminds me of Corbin Carroll's, but I guess with Corbin Carroll, since he's like so much smaller, I guess it doesn't look as weird. But he's
Nolan
literally
Schanuel's a little taller, yeah.
like he's so and I don't know. It was really weird. And
Well,
every time I watch him, I'm so confused by this, Nolan.
have you ever seen Craig Counsell videos of him when he was hitting?
No. Mm-mm.
So if you ever get the opportunity, just go on YouTube. I'm sure you can find like a 20-second clip of him hitting. He used to literally wrap all around like that, and he would flick his bat. He was. Who is he managing for now? The Cubs? He was managing for the Brewers and then the Cubs. But
Cubs
he was
now,
a Brewers the bulk of his career, so it's kind of weird. But he was another guy. There's definitely some dudes out there who have very interesting batting stances.
Yeah, I was watching something on MLB Network, and it was like, who is the old timey guy for the Royals?
George Brett.
Thank you. It was George Brett, and he was talking about his like batting stance and something about like how he had to like wrap the bat around his head or something to get like the timing down to not swing at a certain pitch or something like that. And I was like, oh, okay. And so I was thinking that maybe it was something along those lines. Maybe. But, again, I don't know. And we have our own issues over here with like Alex Bregman doing stupid, ridiculous things. So we're like, okay, sure, Nolan Schanuel, if it ain't broke, I guess don't fix it. But that was just a random Angels thing that I was like, I need to ask Angels people about this. Maybe they know.
So Alex Bregman, you brought him up. He's on a contract year. Do you think he sticks around? Do you think they even want him around anymore?
I think they want him around, but I mean, if he keeps not producing the way that he's not producing, then maybe we can afford him. Because that's the whole issue. I don't think that we're going to be able to A, afford him, or B, give him the long enough contract that he wants. And quite honestly, it's kind of the talk of it's either Alex Bregman or Kyle Tucker. And I had kind of been on the fence about the whole either or situation. I'm like, why not both? After this year, I'm like, send Alex Bregman to the moon and just give Kyle Tucker all of the money. And I've been saying give Kyle Tucker all the money for a while now. But with the way that Alex Bregman has been not producing this first, 2-ish months of the year, it just solely irritates me. Like just fully I want to strap him to a rocket and just send him to the moon. And he had his salsa brand and it was called Breggy Bomb Salsa, and then they rebranded into Wild Soul. And I'm all, why are you trying to go away from Breggy Bomb? I'm like, is it because you're trying to not be affiliated with the Astros anymore? And I was like, that's what it kind of seemed like. I don't know if that's, if that has any legs or anything, but it really seems like he's trying to unbrand himself from anything Astros related so that he could go into a contract year and get the money. And I'm not going to begrudge any player on trying to get the bag. That's totally fine. But the fact of the matter is that he played so well in spring training, and I got myself hyped because he played so well in spring training, and it being a contract year, I was thinking that he was going to be hot out the gate. And that's on me. That's why you shouldn't have any expectations.
Do you think
then you don't have any disappointments?
That's fair. So with a lot of these like key pieces to, what was the Astros dynasty for the better part of like a decade there, Correa leaving, George Springer leaving, just to name a couple, potentially Bregman. Do you think 2017 and all that negativity that came with it had anything to do with them leaving, or did it have more to do with like the ownership not wanting to pay out the players?
I don't think it was 2017. I mean, like, George Springer had his own issues with ownership as it was because of the manipulation, contract, not contract manipulation, uh service time manipulation. There we go.
Yeah,
You
I knew
know,
what you meant, but I also
yeah.
couldn't find the
Yeah, I'm
words.
like, there's a couple of words in front of manipulation that I am missing, but so he had his issues. Carlos Correa always wanted the bag, and there was no way on earth Jim Crane was going to give him the contract that he wanted.
That's fair. I mean, his work
And
in San Francisco, which says a lot more about him,
yeah,
because
well, and the fact that, you know, after it came out with all of his, like, foot issues and, like, and all of that stuff, and you're like, "Oh, okay." And then with the emergence of Jeremy Pena and how well he played, and essentially, we didn't miss a beat from shortstop. And, again, I was not raised on Carlos Correa, so Carlos Correa was never, like, entrenched in my heart. There were a lot of Astros fans that were very upset that Carlos Correa left. I was like, Jeremy Pena is my shortstop, like, I don't care, I'm good." And so the fact that we have had a farm system that has been ranked essentially in the bottom 5, but has produced one of the top 5, rookie of the year candidates the past, what, like 6, 7 years, like, has always been, like, that's fine. You can say that our farm system sucks. However, we're still churning out these guys and that are doing amazing things. It was Christian Javier a couple seasons ago. It's Ronel Blanco this season. It's been Hunter Brown. Like, we've always had a couple of guys that have always been developed really well in our system. And so the fact that, George Springer left and then Kyle Tucker emerged, Carlos Correa left, here comes Jeremy Pena. So I think if Alex Bregman is really the first quote unquote hole that you look in our farm system, you look kind of in plate and you're like, is there really a guy that can kind of fill third base? Kind of, maybe. So that was kind of always the issue of, there's really not like someone that we can just plug in and produce the way that Breggy's produced. But then now it's, kind of recency bias. I'm like, just send him to the moon. Someone can play over there. We'll be fine. But then you see Alex Bregman making, like the Gold Glove defensive plays, and you're like, oh, JK. Maybe that's a little of the reason we keep him around. So, but no, I don't think it's 2017. I just think it's the money plus contract time and Jim Crane not willing to do that. So,
yeah, and Jim Crane's a guy who has money, so I mean, really should be forking it out there, especially with 2 championships over the last since this dynasty type run started. So I mean, we know
yep.
you got the bag.
Yeah. Yep.
So 2 more questions. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, and well, I appreciate you being willing to come on.
Oh no, love it.
So you already alluded to the fact that perhaps that now you guys are going to start having some of these gaps, and that's where free agency comes in. You mentioned that farm system wise, the Astros are towards the bottom as well. So do you fear that over the next 3 to 5 years, this Astros dynasty is going to be over? Not to say that a new one won't start, but this current dynasty run will have finally, dwindled out.
Yes and no. Like, baseball fandom heart says no, obviously, but the analytical part of my brain,
Practical
that
baseball side.
yeah, has to say, at some point, like, you can't always win. But we have a literal glut of outfielders that are doing amazing things. And at some point in time, I'm all, are we gonna have to trade some of the outfield for some, like, infield
Yes.
depth,
Yeah.
for, some, like, pitching, like, what? And I think with Dana Brown coming in and having his mind for, like, finding those kind of like diamonds in the rough kind of guys, like the ones that are like overlooked, kind of undervalued type players, if those will turn out. And so I think within the next like 4 years, we probably will not be atop of the AL West. I don't think we'll be, at the bottom. We'll probably be right where we are now, but without the expectations of, being,
winning the division every year.
yeah. So, and that will be hard for me. This season has been really hard for me. Like, let me just preface that. Like, this season has been really hard for me just because, again, when you have expectations, then when your team doesn't meet those expectations, you were solely disappointed. And it was like, well, Susie, like last season we had Martin Maldonado on this team, and I fully expected us to struggle because Martin Maldonado was on this team and was the big black hole that he was. All right. And then, we saw what Jose Abreu is.
But can't hit himself out of a wet paper.
No. See, this is why you guys have great memories of Maldi. You have the defensive catcher memories of Maldi, which we originally had. And then we kept signing him because of the things that he used to do. And if you look last season at his stats, he was legitimately second to last or last in all of the defensive metrics. And then people will be like, but no, it's not his defense. And it's his quote unquote intangibles and how well he worked with the pitchers. He was the pitcher whisperer. Don't get me on a Maldi rant.
So you brought up Maldonado, and obviously we traded him to the Astros, and was it 2018?
Yeah.
And we got Patrick Sandoval, and Patrick Sandoval has always been that guy who has potential, just never worked it out. Would you have preferred to have kept Sandoval in your organization, especially because the Astros are so good at turning out pitchers?
I don't think so, because the first couple of seasons that Maldi was here, he wasn't the main catcher. Like, we still had Jason Castro, and we still had Robinson Chirinos, yeah. And so he was like the backup, catcher, and he was great. And then, Castro got hurt, and then he turned into like the full-time catcher. And even in like that 21 run that we had, he was still not this version of Maldi, like just huge black hole that he was. And I had some great memories of him. I have a shirt in my closet that says don't run on the machete, because he was that guy. And then he kept trying to make him into that same guy, and I'm all, can you just not? Can you see and look, and can you give the young guy a chance? Like, you want the young guy to turn into Maldi at some point, but yet you're not letting him do any of the things. So how is he going to turn into Maldi? Yeah. It was beyond me last season. So no, I would say no, because we had some great memories with him. He had some amazing plays for us. So I would say probably not, but maybe if I could cut it off at 22 and say, or 23, let me 23.
Okay. But that would have been a good time.
That would have been great. Like, if we could have given him back to y'all at 23 and then done other things there.
Hoppy. I like O'Hoppy, so we don't need Maldonado anymore.
Yeah. But
I think O'Hoppy's going to be a stud.
Is Max Stassi hurt with y'all?
He's on he got traded this offseason. He's on the White Sox.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
who's your backup catcher?
Backup catcher is Matt Dice.
Okay.
And he was drafted for he was our first round pick in 2015. Kind of one of those guys that never really had a home, never really that good. And then after a couple injuries, they moved him to catcher. God, what year was that? Maybe like 20. They moved him to catcher, and he finished off as a catcher in the minors. And now he's just kind of our backup. I don't really like him in that role, to be honest. But
but Logan O'Hoppy is doing all the things for y'all. So when he got hurt last season, I was like, God, that was like another one of those injuries. I was like,
yeah,
really? Like, they can't win for losing like the one guy doing the things. But
you guys stretch. What do you guys do before games? Yeah, just play Fortnite. What are we doing here?
I don't know. I don't know what you got. That's one of the questions that I have. Every single time we talk about the Angels, I'm always like, I don't understand why they're hurt all of the time. Why?
Yeah, you know what? We've been covering this team for almost 4 years now, and if I ever get that answer, I will message you immediately and let you know. Like, oh,
Perfect.
it's because Mike Trout farted on a ferry and made her cry, and she jinxed the team 10 years ago.
You know that is probably one of the most plausible answers that I've heard at this point in time. Like,
Yeah, exactly. It makes sense. Like, oh, Mike Trout pissed off a ferry. That's what happened.
there you go. There you go.
All right, last question I have. So you mentioned this year's been a little rough for you. The Astros, the biggest issue right now is the pitching. I'm sure every Astros fan would say that pitching's a little hurt right now. So with that being said, where do you think the Astros are going to finish this year?
I don't know. Honestly, I have no idea at this point in time because it literally seems like if we get one part of the team going, then another part of the team falls off. So, we can only have two of the three. So, either our starters are really good and our offense is there, and then the bullpen blows it. If our starter blows it, our bullpen is good and our offense is like it all three parts is not working all of the time, and essentially that's we say that it was the starting pitching. The starting pitching definitely is a major factor in it, but the fact of the matter of that, like, we have a problem with runners in scoring position, which I know you guys are very aware of.
Yeah.
That is a major thing. That is a major thing for us as well. Not as much, but it was one of the major issues, the fact that some of those games were winnable if we had just scored with runners in scoring position, and then, the bullpen did blow it. But on paper, you look at the team and you're like, "Oh yeah, no, 7, 8, 9, that's you're set. But it's not those guys haven't performed, and then Bregman has taken a step back. Abreu is well, we didn't expect big things out of Abreu anyways, but like various people on the team that you expect all to be locked in at the same time are not locked in. So it's one of those where you're like, at this point, it's baseball. And that is the most cop out answer that I can give because it's baseball.
It's a long season.
And it's one of those where the baseball gods don't like cocky bitches. And that's essentially where I've put myself. Like, I firmly planted myself on that cocky bitch mountain at the beginning of the season. And I was like, oh no, AL West runs through Houston. The fact that we had the abomination that was Martin Maldonado in our lineup and we got 90 wins, you cannot tell me that with, Yiner playing every day or, most of the time, and a backup, like a decent backup catcher playing, which at that time we did not know was Victor Caratini, but now Victor Caratini, like, the fact that we have two catchers that can actually hit is a revelation to us. Like, we don't know what that is. And so I was like, you cannot tell me that this team constructed currently is not going to win more than 90 games. Oh no, we've got the AL West sewn up. I'm not going to go out so far as to say that, the AL runs to Houston anymore. I'm not going to be that cocky, but the AL West for sure runs through Houston. And then the baseball god said, see, we don't really like cocky bitches, Susie. So this is what we're going to do. We are just going to just sprinkle a little something over here and make that back end of the bullpen that you guys think is just so impenetrable. We're gonna make them suck for a little while. And then guys that you don't know who they are, we're gonna make them good, but they're not gonna be able to go all of the time. So, like, Taylor Scott, he's gonna be able to go for you, but he's not gonna be able to go, all of the time. Then there's gonna be the emergence of, like, Ronel Blanco, who the fuck is that guy? We're gonna make him good, but then, we're gonna make Christian Javier suck for a little while. We're gonna make JV hurt. Oh, guess what? We're gonna make Fromber hurt. Like, that's the baseball gods. They don't like hockey, so they're like,
Yeah.
Astros fans.
And your shiny new toy of a hater, he's not going to be a hater.
Yeah, not from the get go. Not from the get go. The last like 3-ish weeks, it looks like he has locked back in and been that guy that we saw with, like with the Brewers. there was actually an article that came out today, I think Buster Olney, about his role with the Padres and like his usage, and because I know Padres fans hate Josh Hader and like, uh, we don't like that guy. He wouldn't shave for he wouldn't because they weren't going to pay him, and he didn't want to get hurt before he got the big contract. And now he's come out twice now and done, 4-out saves in, the it's like April and May, people, like, it's a long time. But
Yeah.
he wasn't willing to do the damage as long as he didn't have the contract. He got the contract,
Got his bag.
and he's like, "All right, Astros, like, you want me to do this? That's fine. I will do this because I'm gonna get paid regardless, but I'm gonna do this." So, got his bag. So now he's gonna do the things, and I can't begrudge him for that. As a Padres fan, I get it though. I do. I understand.
All right. Well, Susie, where can our audience find you if they are interested in your podcast?
So you can find Bourbon and Baseball on YouTube, on Instagram, Twitter. There is 2 different versions of Bourbon and Baseball. Don't think just because you see all the Astros stuff, don't just think that I am an Astros person. I do love Astros first and foremost. However, I am a baseball fan overall. So we have 2 different versions of the show. We have Bourbon and Baseball, All the Balls edition, and that is my co-host for that is her name is Kelsey, and we cover all of the baseball, all of the different teams, all of the different storylines, all that fun stuff. And then we have Bourbon and Baseball Astros edition, and Tom is my co-host for that. So we have 2 different versions of the show. Obviously, one is more Astros centric, one is more league centric. And Kelsey's really fun because she's actually a Cardinals fan. That's her favorite team. And so we have differing viewpoints, AL, NL, and then, she has a faction of fan bases that she sees versus, the fan bases that I see. And it's just a really good mixture of baseball knowledge. We have a lot of fun over there. Obviously, we cut up. We have a section called Talk Dirty to Me where we take various announcing clips and we're like, why? Why did you have to word it like that? That's not how that should be worded. Like, what what you're doing. You know what you're doing. And it's just we have fun with it. And it's a good time. So we talk a lot of not a lot of fantasy baseball, but our fantasy teams get talked about as well. So
Well, there you go. Give both of them a listen. I know our audience is always listen. Even rival podcasts, if they want Astros content right before, they will tune in for that kind of stuff. So there you go. If you want Astros content, Susie's your gal. If you want baseball content, Susie's your gal. So there you go.
Yep.
Give her a follow either way. Susie, it's a good time. It was a pleasure. And let's do this again.
Definitely, for sure. And go Stros. Just kidding. I will say, hopefully, like our team wins. Hopefully, maybe.
All right, we'll edit that one. All right, guys, all of us here at Halos in the Infield, thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time.